You know, the worst thing about playing video games these days is the lack of understanding and the lack of gravity a first mission has these days. This entire rant is going to be inspired by the first 20 minutes of The Outer Worlds I just played through. I actually played more than that, but the main focal point of my infuriation with the open world genre nowadays is solely sponsored by Outer Worlds. So you can thank Outer Worlds for having the worst opening act I have ever seen to a video game in recent times. And for that, okay, let me just get into why the Outer Worlds opening was tragically stupid and so appalling. I almost wanted to quit just in the first 20 minutes. So we land on this ship, or go character customization. Who cares? We land on the planet. The planet is like colorful for no reason. Like I mean, it's supposed to be an alien planet, but come on, man, you're forcing these colors down my throat. The palette looks really gross and doesn't really blend well. It tries too hard to be Borderlands with its weapon system and aiming. And I mean, I didn't even play that far into the game to make a definitive suggestion on what the weapon system should have been or how it should have worked properly. But it just feels clunky to even play the game, first of all. And that first 20 minutes is so boring. You're shooting at lifeless enemies that literally cannot do anything to you. I meleeed every single one of them to death. They do nothing to you, but that's pretty basic. No one cares about that. But they look generic, they look ugly. And the characters that were first introduced, oh my god, are these the worst characters I've ever seen in my entire life. Where we get to see like some dude in a cave, he looks ugly. Some military general, she looks ugly. Then we get to see like some mob boss in the city you walk to. He's also just looks disgusting. Like these characters are just so ugly to look at that I almost want to puke my brains out whenever I have to have dialogue with them. And then the girl he sends me with to get the job done, getting a core to replace my ship. Like I have no clue what to say. Like I'm actually just like, how do you make a mission, the first impression that a player gets when he plays your game, to be so unbelievably abysmal? Like I just don't want to play anymore. And this is coming off a hot streak of playing non-stop open world games for like the past 2 months. For the past 2 months, I've been playing only open world games, just solely so I can just have the gratification of you know, playing these games that are so critically acclaimed and so widely known throughout, you know, the gaming industry. And I'll get into all of them and what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And this whole rant is going to be like a critical analysis on the open world formula. And for the Outer Worlds, a game that has like a 91% on like Steam, overwhelmingly positive, I think. It's just mind-boggling how someone can play through this first mission and be like, this is the biggest turnoff I have ever had to a video game in my entire history on this earth. And I've played some pretty bad games. I mean, I'm not going to say that I played Mass Effect Andromeda because I can't imagine what you guys went through. Whoever played Mass Effect Andromeda, you deserve a Medal of Honor probably for playing that game, right? But this game is just so ugly to look at. First of all, the characters are just it feels like you spend years of your life working on a game and you play this first mission and you're like, yeah, this is what I call a video game. This is the epitome of art and entertainment that I want to be consuming at this exact moment. And I just gotta look them I can't look someone in the eye and say, yeah, that first mission, it was even mediocrely entertaining. It's not. It's just not even mediocre. Okay. Aside from that, let's get into what I think an open world formula usually has. And you know, there are good elements to an open world formula, as in like the world. Obviously, the whole point of having this type of game is so you can explore the world and have a world that surrounds you. But obviously, it depends on the depth of that world. You can't just really have like mountains in the background and say, "Oh, You see those mountains in the background? You can go to those mountains in the background, but there's nothing to do there. You can go there, but there's nothing to do there. And I feel like a lot of games like these have a lot of problems, like increasing and enticing the player to really go somewhere. And when they're so discouraged by like literally the first mission, what's the point of even going out there and doing stuff if that first mission is so abysmal that you don't even want to explore the rest of the world if that's what the first mission has to offer? And that's just the wrong focus, in my opinion. In an opening mission for a game like The Outer Worlds, you should be focusing on the magnificence of space, right? Like, maybe that gets past in the first act or whatever, but like, you should be focusing on like, man, this is going to be a sprawling, epic, like game that encapsulates everything you want to see in like something like a Star Wars game where you can see the galaxy in front of you, you can explore it, right? It's not like a No Man's Sky or something like that. It's more grounded than that, and you're kind of hopping from planet to planet or whatever. But The Outer Worlds just doesn't understand what a good formula is supposed to have. And first of all, like they try to make it so, or they have this weird idea in their mind that just because you make the colors on the planet look weirdo and stuff like that, it'll make it look like an alien planet. Well, isn't the point of an alien planet supposed to be like somebody lives there and thinks that's all normal, and then like these colors just don't look normal to you, which is fine, but like some of the characters are surprised to see some things happen. Like I'm at a loss for words of why they think some events shouldn't be happening. I mean, they live on the planet. Shouldn't they know that some of these things are happening? And shouldn't they take control of certain elements of it? And like, why are they surprised when it's like, oh, this is goo, there's goo all over me? Like, of course you killed that guy. There's gonna be goo all over you. Don't you live on this planet? Don't you know there's gonna be goo all over you? And I don't know what to tell you. So if I was to direct an open world game's first episode or like first opening act, right, I would immediately set up with the hook. The hook is the most important part. In the Outer Worlds, there is no hook. You immediately just spawn in, you just do nothing, you say nothing, you have no impact other than saying a few words of dialogue, and you don't even say it, by the way, because it's just customer characterization and you're trying to get immersed. But I'm done with that. I'm done with these character customizations. They're useless. They serve no purpose other than to void out any terms of writing for you, the main character, because they're too lazy to write a main character. I'm done with that. I feel like this whole idea that, oh, we want you to feel like you have an impact on the game because you made this character. Well, usually most people just make a character that looks nothing like them and just hop around the world doing nothing anyway. So I feel like there's no point to doing that. Just stick to like a character that you wrote competently and then delve deep into like what makes them special as that character, or what makes them special as a merchant, or a bounty hunter. Like I choose the class cashier. What I made my character super persuasive and stuff like that. But how am I impacting anybody by being persuasive? Like is there any depth to my character because I'm persuasive? No, there's no character depth to my character because it's my dude. And I hate that element of open world games that try to force this down your throat like it matters. And so, back to what would happen if I directed one. I would make sure that if I wanted to choose like a setting, the colors matched, because the colors need to be matching with the setting that I choose, because the ambiance of a scene really matters, and especially in setting up that tension, eventual tension that you build up and then hook and release, right? You release them out into this world with the hook in mind, with the goal in mind, that you have to accomplish a task, but you don't have to accomplish that task right away. You can explore this world and do whatever you want. You don't have to do it. But there's no hook in Outer Worlds, and there's no hook in a lot of these games you play. A good hook I can think of right away is Skyrim, where you have the dragon. Although you do spend a lot of time customer characterization in the first like 10 minutes, that dragon attack, that opening scene where you have everybody just running around, and the tutorial in that game is you running through like flames and like learning to do combat right as like everything is like just going ape all around you. And in the Outer Worlds, your tutorial is use crouch to crouch under this log. You can run too. If you press left shift, you can jump over this log too. It's so ugly. Like, how is this? How did someone design this game and say, you know what? I played Mario 64, and that open area where you have a bunch of cool stuff and you can just platform or do whatever you want. Just screw that. It was made. It's an old game, ugly game. It made in 1990 whatever. We're in the new age. You know what we do? We go back to like NES era type of tutorials where you literally have nothingness. Crouch in this grass to avoid enemies. If they see you, there will be an indicator at the top of their head. Lord have mercy for the guy who actually thinks this game is competently written, directed, or even functional. Because I cannot conceivably think that this guy actually sat down at his desk and said, man, I am actually creating a masterclass in storytelling. Because that's not there. And man, I am creating a masterclass in gameplay. This will change. This will be unlike anything we've ever seen from Obsidian Entertainment. Because that's not also there. And you know what? I feel like this game just has nothing to offer you as a player. It has nothing to offer you. Because open world games, at their core, should offer you freedom. Freedom to do literally whatever you want, anything you want. I mean, that's the same thing, but whatever you want, when you want, and how you want. But, you know, you can't really do the how you want because how you want is super broad, right? You have to literally think of everything you can. And I think the Phantom Pain does that correctly, or close enough to how you want it. But at the core, you should be able to do at least that. It should offer you something of tangibility in the first opening act. Like, why should I care to play this game? Why do I care? At the bare minimum, why do I have to care enough to play this game? And again, you can bring up Skyrim, or you can bring up Breath of the Wild, which is my favorite game. Immediately, you don't even get to play the game before a cutscene, which I usually hate expository dialogue cutscenes. But this opening cutscene sets up so perfectly for what the next moments have to offer. You wake up from like 100-year slumber and you have to save Hyrule. That's it. And like, it's so perfect and poetic in the way they do it, and it's so simple. They don't need to do over excessive dialogue or make you do a dumb tutorial because the area around you is the tutorial. Like, you can figure out the controls by yourself. You don't need someone to tell you, press B to duck. You can press left control to go under this branch. I don't care. I just don't care. I mean, it's not even like the boredom of an open world usually, because a lot of open worlds get it wrong when it comes to depth of content. There's a perfect balance between just filling everything with content and then filling nothing with content. Because if you fill everything with content and you keep constantly ramming things down the player's throat without them having any experience to freely explore the world by themselves and like come across certain things, and you keep shoving this stuff down their throat, like in Red Dead, where you just have like random events happen and you just get killed while you're exploring. And I mean, I don't really like that. I kind of think that there should be a balance, and I think Breath of the Wild really strikes that balance really perfectly, where you can either engage or disengage. You can just do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And that is what I'm talking about when it comes to depth of experience. Because when it comes to depth of experience, right, it matters to me. Like, how am I looking at this game and I'm saying I'm having a good experience? I am feeling the melodies in my ears are sounding really good. The soundtrack really helps me be immersed in this world and what it has to offer. These characters really compel me to feel obligated to complete a task and stuff like that. And like, when you get to the first guy in Outer Worlds, he's like, yeah, I heard of another hyperdrive in another place over there. You should go get it if you want it. Okay. Thanks for setting me up for the most boring task of all time, a fetch and receive quest. Thank you so much. I really love that. Like, we're dipping below even Ubisoft levels of game sense here. These are the guys who made New Vegas. Okay, next I wanted to talk about story through gameplay, because story through gameplay is a large element to what I think makes a good open world work. Dark Souls is the perfect example of this. When I played Dark Souls, you play this game, I skip all dialogue and skip all cutscenes in Dark Souls because it doesn't matter. You don't have to see this, but sometimes, you see the boss intros and stuff like that. That's fine. I'll watch that. But like the dialogue, I could care less. But you understand the story of this world and how it came to be this way through the gameplay itself. You're walking around in these environments of just dredged in like corruption and just doused in like it feels like gasoline. It feels like it reeks everywhere you walk, and that type of immersion, even though you're not even playing in first person, really helps you to understand like the story of this area I'm walking in. Like the Undead Burg feels like it's supposed to be like uh, just a bunch of people used to live there, and they're skeletons now or whatever, or I don't even know what to call them. Whatever. They're just there and they serve the purpose of just attacking you. But you can go deeper than that and be like, okay, if I wanted to look into why they're into that, just walk around the buildings and explore. Like a lot of these people have houses and stuff like that. They obviously lived in a civilization beforehand and probably lived in prosperity or whatever. And now you're just walking through and killing all of them. So you know you can easily draw meaning from gameplay. It's just that these games need to shove a half-wit story down your throat for no reason, and it doesn't even matter when you can just do it through playing the game. It's a video game. I don't know why a lot of corporations think that, you know what, I'm going to build a game that is story focused. Well, if I wanted a story, I could read a book, and I hate reading books. I mean, I don't mean to sound like an idiot saying I don't like to read books, but that's the truth. I don't like to read books, but if I wanted just a story, I could read a book. Like, there's no visual element to a story. And in video games, there is a visual element to the story, but why do that when you can just do it through the gameplay? It's a video game, and, you're moving your hands. That's the whole point. In Pac-Man, the story is, I'm killing these ghosts to get these pellets, blah, blah, blah. Don't care. And then in Red Dead, they try to shove this, like, just idealistic leader down your throat, and it's just not good storytelling in my opinion. I'll get into Red Dead later, but moral of the story: you have to focus on really showing the player that you care about the game itself, and not so much the story of that game, because you can tell so much through just someone experiencing like someone gives them a side quest and they're like, dang, now I know a lot more about this world than I used to. Because in side quests, usually there's not a lot of dialogue. It's you just doing something, right? You're killing this ogre or whatever. You can experience a lot more about the area. Like, okay, now I know this area is filled with ogres or whatever. Instead of like, oh, I need to give you an expository flashback about this time I got raided by ogres. Okay, thank you so much. That I really wanted this expository dialogue shoved down my throat that I can't skip either. And I have a problem with games with unskippable cutscenes, but it's not as bad with most modern games because cutscenes usually are skippable nowadays. But in older games, no way in hell. So, I wanted to start off with the first game I played on my journey through all these open world games, which is Skyrim. I played this about 2 months ago, and I gotta say, I was very impressed at how developed and coordinated this world was with its characters and how well it integrates itself with the player. But although it has all these, like, it has a massive scale, first of all, it also has, like, a lot of immersion, aptitude to you as the player, if you want to be immersed, you can be immersed. Or if you don't want to be immersed, you can run around naked if you want. No one cares, except it'll probably show up in the dialogue. Like, why are you naked? And the main problem I had with this game is that its combat system is so flawed, and I'd like to talk about that as a rule of thumb for open world games in general, because a lot of games just have this kind of mentality that they need to have a really complicated and diverse system of combat for you to focus on, because it'll help you defeat your enemies at a quicker rate or whatever, and you need to have this customization. You need to have 10 notches that increase your strength, 10 notches that increase your magic power, and 10 notches that increase your dexterity or something like that. I don't care about that stuff. I like simplistic game design, because the more you try to create a diverse system in which you try to separate the system from the game itself, it just becomes a disconnect. I don't like that disconnect, because then I'm like, okay, I can't kill this enemy, and I can only do it if I upgrade my materials 10 times, so I need to go collect these 10 flowers that are required to upgrade my materials. It's so ugly how someone designs a game like that. And why is there any incentive for me as the player to be like, man, I cannot wait to go collect those 10 flowers so I can upgrade my sword to level 5 power? Oh, God, have mercy on my soul for the person that thinks that's a good idea. And in Skyrim, that is the exact idea they have. They try to include all this alchemy. They try to do all this like advanced combat system, like speech and like two-handed, one-handed, ranged or whatever. They have a bunch of like skill trees and stuff like that, and I don't like that. I just don't. The game itself is great. I think I give the game around like a 7 or an 8. But the reason it's held back from like anything higher than that is because of its combat and like potion system or whatever you want to call it, right? And it's so flawed in nature, because like the cohesion between the gameplay and the combat system is intertwined. Don't get me wrong, it's intertwined. You can feel yourself getting stronger if you upgrade your stuff. But the problem is, it's just tedium. It's back-to-back tedium of like, okay, where do I invest my skill points next? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? It gets you thinking, and I think that's probably the mentality they have. Like, oh, we want to get our players thinking about this certain concept, or thinking about I want to become stronger so I can defeat this enemy. But who is doing that? I want you to ask yourself, who is sitting down and saying, only the most dedicated players are going to sit down and be like, and not even the most dedicated players, these players that are dedicated have probably already played through the game, and they're like, okay, this is my 3rd time, now I'm going to go for a strength build. Thank the Lord for other games that just have a simplistic combat system that requires no upgrades, no nothing. Just, you pick up this weapon, you can use it at its maximum capacity. I mean, at its maximum capacity, I mean not as if like you one-shot every enemy. I'm saying like, this is the item, this is the rate at which it kills an enemy. You can find a better item, and that's it. End of story. That's a good combat system to me. Let me take a drink of water, because this is a long one, I'll tell you that. Next, Red Dead. And I'm talking about Red Dead 2, by the way. This is the most recent one I played. I just finished it like maybe 5 days ago. Red Dead 2 tries to polish a story for like so far that it leaves barely any game to play nor reason to play it. Like, dude, look at the hot air balloon mission, the train driving mission, or the opening act on the island, or robbing the army stagecoach for the Indian medicine. These missions are pressing one button. The hot air balloon mission, you press left shift the entire mission. That is it. The train driving mission, you press one button, W, to move the train forward. The opening act on the island, you are in a dazed state, and you press one button, and if you let go of that button, you stop moving, and you can't progress unless you press that one button. Robbing the U.S. Army stagecoach for Indian medicine, you're pressing one button. It's so anti-player. Like, what's the point of just take these missions out? Like, why do you have to have these? Like, we could have just scouted for John Marston in like some other means. Like, really, you wanted, or a cutscene? Like, just at that point, just do a cutscene. Like, there's no point. Why? I feel like they're just doing it to clown on me as the player. Just be like, Yeah, you see this guy? Why don't we just totally ruin any momentum we had and just have them just stupid. It's just a stupid mission just to troll me, just for no reason. And then they introduce all these Indians, and not to say like the Indian missions are like terrible or anything, but they're just worthless. They are absolutely worthless to the story. I don't care about the Indians nor their plights. I mean, this is not in a historical way. I'm saying about in the game itself, the Indian missions are terrible. They are absolutely, they provide nothing to the story, first of all, and they're so disconnected from why the game is good at all. The game is good because of its characters and like mostly just because of the people that are in the camp. And when you try to introduce so many new characters to a story while it's already going on, you just become disillusioned at what you should focus on next. Like Dutch was building up to be like this super just falling from grace type of figure, and I want to see his struggle because he's the most compelling character. Arthur, he's just one-dimensional garbage, but Dutch is actually the most compelling character out of every single one, and they leave him to dry for like 5 straight hours in the story. They leave him to do absolutely nothing. And if you want any development, you have to just go talk to him yourself. And barely, that's not even barely development. I'm talking about like purely through gameplay and like completing missions, like blowing up the bridge for no reason. Like, I mean, I guess you could analyze that, but like the the focus of this game was to polish the story, and even the story is not even polished. Like, what's the point? And then people are praising this as like one of the best games of 2018. I just can't get behind the idea that someone just it's something else. It's something of another. It's another creature has possessed that person to believe that, because I definitely cannot understand why people believe that. Uh, anyhow, the Red Dead just really is a good game, but held back by a lot of stupid things, like its horse mechanics, just the annoyingness of its combat wheel, like the guns always resetting for no reason. Like it's something just that could be fixed with a simple patch. Like the horse, didn't we learn how to ride horses in Skyrim? I mean, although you can ride horses up a mountain in Skyrim, like didn't we learn how to do those mechanics in like Skyrim or GTA? Come on. And I really don't know what to tell you. Like these games are just not meant to be fun. They're just not fun. Like Skyrim is fun. I'm not saying Skyrim isn't fun. I'm saying Red Dead isn't fun. Like these shootouts get so boring in like the later areas of the story, and like you have such variety in the beginning of Red Dead. You have like the attack on the mansion of like the Italian mob boss. You have the ferry boat. The ferry boat's a really cool one. Uh, and you just have a really good variety. And then after that, it just turns into like the Indian missions, of course, where you're just like shooting at soldiers for no reason, and it's like, well, where are we going with this? Like, this has nothing to do with anything I care about. And like, people are killed off for no reason. Like, Mish Grimshaw is literally killed off for literally no reason. I mean, that's a spoiler, but like, who cares? Who cares? It's a bad game anyway. And plus, if you're offended by spoilers, you shouldn't be watching me anyway. Uh, next, Witcher 3. Holy God, I don't know. I just don't know what to say for Witcher 3. Like, Witcher 3 focuses so much on expressive and the colorful scale of its world, but no actual depth to it. Like, there's nothing except for Novigrad. Novigrad, I spent like 8 hours just wandering around and doing all the side missions. I think I did every single side mission in Novigrad. It's just bustling with life and energy, but the rest of the game comparatively is just, there's no reason for me to explore it at all. No reason. Uh, like it, I think the point of the game was like to just provide you with a amazingly just beautiful world you can explore, not so much the depth to it. But that's the problem with it. It just doesn't have the depth to back it up. And when you have a game that is like meant to be taken seriously, it's not like this game is meant to be taken absurd, like Wolfenstein 2, where it has more uh, absurd tone, or it's more creative with its visuals. This is supposed to be a grounded game where you're just like RPG, basic stuff like dragons and magic and stuff like that. By the way, this is the first Witcher game I played. And Witcher 3, it's not a bad. I mean, it's a bad game. I gave it like a 4 out of 10. because of how lackluster it felt as a game. Like its combat system is really annoying to play too, but that's not even the main point I have. It's definitely just the lack of things to do in the world. And only the only part of that game that felt really solid other than Novigrad was like I don't even know what to say. Like the Skellig Island missions were so boring. Like they have a in the game, if you haven't played it, there's this entirely different island where you have to go to Yennefer and get Yennefer and stuff like that, I guess, which is his like love interest or whatever. And that island is so abysmally boring. Like it's filled with like a lot of visual capacity. Like you see like castles, like trees, and like everything around it is really nice and gorgeous, but there's nothing to it. I can literally kill everyone in the village and nothing will happen. And like there's so much there's so much stuff you could have done with such a world. It's so bare bones for no reason. I mean, CD Projekt Red, like I think that's my first introduction to CD Projekt Red, and I mean, I'm gonna buy the new Cyberpunk game just to play it because it just looks really gorgeous. But like the problem with Witcher 3 is it looks gorgeous, and I'm hoping that they fix this in Cyberpunk. Is that it needs to look gorgeous, but at the same time, I need to have something to do. There's just nothing to do in Witcher 3. And you can disagree with me with that, but you know, it's just you can do all the side missions, but they're just not fun to do outside of Novigrad, and you don't really care about any of the people you're doing the side quests for. Like the one side quest where you have to uh, prop up all the statues of this one god because this old lady asked you. Wow, such a riveting and thrilling experience, I must say. Definitely wanted to do that one actually. Yep, I wanted to walk around the entire world and prop up every single statue. It's just like those missions in Red Dead where you have that one dude who wants you to get him 5 flowers. Like, I need you to get me these 5 flowers so I can complete my potion. You know. Next, I guess. Here. Let's take an intermission here, just because I feel like I'm a little bit too harsh. Well, I mean, I'm giving the right amount of harshness, but I need to also give the right amount of balance. uh, I'm not trying to say that open world games are bad for the industry. They're they're definitely one of the most appealing games out there. Aside from indie games, I think are on the rise recently because of their creative nature, and a lot of gamers want to see creativity in the games they play, which is not what they get in an open world games. Because in the open world games, the main facet of the game is the world, obviously. So you come to these games for the world, and the world doesn't provide usually. And it's not a bad thing that it doesn't provide. I just think that it could be fixed, and it'll just make a great and much better game if you do fix these issues. These issues are minuscule compared to like nailing gameplay. Like, if you want to do a story-based game, sure, you can do it. You can be a Red Dead Redemption 2 and just go full heads on into a story. But like that game has side quests, but it's just not fun to do. I mean, there's every single side quest usually ends up in a shootout, which some people would see like, oh, see, that's like gameplay. It's fun to play a shootout. Like, okay, it's like mildly appealing to play a shootout, but how many shootouts can you play until you're like, okay, this is like the 17th shootout I played at the end of a side quest. Where does it end? Why do I care about doing this shootout now? And I feel like that drive to play an open world game is lost in the fact that there's nothing to do. The gameplay sucks, the world sucks, and all that the world even has is just it being gorgeous. And I find that just terrible. Like the world can be the ugliest piece of crap ever, which is Super Mario 64. It looks ugly, but the game is just so. It's not even the nostalgia factor at this point. It's just something that you just do every single time you want to do something. You can do it. it's not one of those games where you can do it any single way you want to do it, but you can do it anytime you want to. You want to hop into this mission right now? Sure, you can hop into this mission right now, and you can do it almost any way you want to. While usually in Red Dead, you usually have a marker for you, and you usually just say ride your horse down to whatever Dead Creek or whatever. I don't know. It just tells you ride your horse down here, kill those guys, go on with your day. And then in Witcher 3, it's sort of like go do this and kill that guy. Boom, you're done. And steal this pendant for me while you're at it. Thanks. And then you have the annoying. I don't even think the card game is that fun. The card game is so boring. I literally use console commands for the poker or whatever the game it's called, so I could just skip it and get the achievement for getting all the cards, and you get like something cool out of it. I think for getting all the Gwent cards and winning the tournament. And yeah, that's a pretty good intermission, I think. Let's go on to Breath of the Wild, because this is by far the greatest game I have ever played in my entire life. Without a doubt, this is the epitome of what a good game should strive to be. Open world, I should say. Good open world game. Platformers, you really can't compete with Breath of the Wild because, obviously 2D, 3D, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Breath of the Wild kind of refines gameplay, but kind of lacks semblance of difficulty if you really look at it. The gameplay is so catered around what you want to do as a player. Like, you can do literally almost anything you want with the mechanics of the game, and if you can dream it, it'll happen probably. You want to freeze that guy and throw him a million miles in the air with your sword with the freeze time mechanic? Sure, you can do that. And with that comes a lot of... I feel like after playing Dark Souls, I realized how weak Breath of the Wild is in terms of the difficulty of its gameplay. But that aside, it's a very casual game. It's something you can just play and feel like this is what a real video game should feel like. I'm just literally just playing however I want to play, right? I can tackle these bosses whenever I want. I can do all these side quests, and it just feels like you have the opportunity and the urge to do something because it's not because it's there, just because you want to do it. And in Breath of the Wild, I felt that. I felt like I had to do this because it meant a lot to the advancement of the story, which I'm not a story guy at all, but I felt like I needed to go capture all of the memory bits so I could create a full picture of why I'm even in Hyrule, which is an optional thing. You don't have to do it, and you can still complete the entire thing. The shrines, they're a really good indicator of just like you can now fast travel here. If you complete this puzzle, you can just you can start upgrading your stuff and stuff like that. And it's really simple. It's really simple at how it captures you as the player and integrates those systems into the world, and it all feels connected. After you just clear an area of all its shrines and do all the things it has to do in that area, you feel like you've accomplished something because now you know that area inside and out, and you can just teleport there whenever you want and do whatever you want there. It just feels good, but the problem with the game is that it's just not difficult. After playing Dark Souls 3, you really just don't feel the same difficulty you get in Breath of the Wild there. I mean, the electricity boss is like sorta amateurly difficult, but considering like most of Dark Souls revolves around just dodging and hitting, you can pretty much apply the same thing. But don't get me wrong, the boss fights are creative in Breath of the Wild more so than Dark Souls, because you have to actually apply the mechanics of the game to the fights because they matter. In the fight with that electricity guy, you have to use your magnetic power to stun him and stuff like that, which is integrating the game systems with it. In The Witcher 3, you're given all these spells, and they just don't integrate themselves into the gameplay that are necessary to defeat certain enemies. Although there are some enemies that literally require you to do it, it just doesn't feel like they went far enough with the concept. What's the point of even including those spells if you're not going to have them serve a specific purpose, like for critical moments in the gameplay? Like these garbage one-off enemies requiring one spell, is not enough to justify them being in the game. While an entire like boss fight requiring this one spell or this one mechanic is way better to have it as, or more justifiable, I should say, in terms of gameplay. And there is like scale to difficulty in this game, but not in the same like sense of triumph or winning. When you win in this game, you don't really feel like you're winning. It's sort of weird to me. It's sort of like when you complete a really frustrating level in like a platformer, like Hollow Knight or something like that, and you're like, I completed that. It's like no sense of triumph after you do something, because like most of the bosses are just a breeze, and like you just do it because you could do it if you wanted to. That's kind of my major critique with the game. But overall, the game's knowledge of how a player wants to really live in a world, they really understand you as a player. That's what I want to get across with Breath of the Wild here. And they set the stage with a lot of music and a lot of emotions with the music. I listen to the soundtrack quite often actually, because it's so like amazing to hear like these minimalist type of classical melodies just drifting through your ears, and then you're just totally immersed in like the type of blowing grass or rain that's falling. And it's a really good way to set up a setting, and really good way to really show you that a lot of effort and care was put into making you realize the gravity and weight that's put into a game like this. Like most of the players who play this game are like, damn, there was a lot of power, a lot of passion put into this game, and I really appreciate it more because of that. And the gameplay shows it, clearly shows it. Um, and I just continue the hot streak with the next game, Minecraft. Minecraft is the best-selling game of all time, and it's an open-world game at its core. In Minecraft, creativity is the most apparent thing you have to take into account when looking at Minecraft as a open world, because the world is pretty much your oyster. You can literally take it apart and rebuild it the way you want to, or you don't even have to do that. You can do literally anything you want. You can go hunting, you can go building a house, you can build a coliseum. You can do almost anything in Minecraft for the short price of like $20. And this game is phenomenal for your money's worth, at least. A lot of Minecraft copies have popped up, right? Cube World was probably one of the more popular ones. Back in my early ages, I played a little bit of Cube World. It was pretty fun. But Minecraft is just the epitome, the absolute epitome of just creativity in how you play a game. You can do literally anything now. I mean, in the early stages of Minecraft, it was more limited to your imagination, but it's still like that. The same essence, even after all these years, is still there with Minecraft. You can defeat the Ender Dragon now and just be done with the game if you want to. Like, but that's not the full weight of the game. Like, there's so much depth and nature to its things. You don't even have to be immersed in its potion system. Like, feel like the potion system is actually the weakest part of Minecraft, because it kind of separates itself too far from the core gameplay. But that aside, like, you just get so much depth of content to Minecraft for mere $20. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And I think Microsoft has done a really great job of keeping Minecraft as a like corner piece of like gaming. Like, they don't ever try to ruin the image of Minecraft and like what it originally strove to do. And I feel like that essence has never died, and people still come back to it after all these years. People will take like a 2-year break from Minecraft and be like coming back, and this is the greatest game that I've ever played with my friends or by myself even. Like, and that type of open world can't be replicated through something that just locks you in and doesn't let you express freedom as a player. And they just do you see Minecraft trying to shove a story down your throat in the gameplay? No. I mean, the end. You could probably come up with theories why the Ender Dragon or Herobrine or whatever anything you want to do. People come up with their own theories, come up with their own narrative, and the narrative speaks through the gameplay. And that's kind of what I'm trying to shove down your throat right now. Now, I think you probably get Minecraft is the most easy and most accessible game that someone can probably understand. And I'm sure there's some people out there that disagree and say that Minecraft is, limited to, the childhood nostalgia sometimes, but I don't think it is. I think it's a perfectly great game for people of any age. And now we get to the more interesting picks I have to discuss. Dark Souls 3. I feel like I've gone through the value of a narrative through gameplay enough, but I can't express to you how much it matters to me. In terms of like when you walk through a world, it's so impressive to me how someone is gifted enough to say, "You see this world? I'm gonna tell a story through it right here, right now." Like that's so genius to me. How someone can just sit down and say, "I'm gonna create a world different from anything you've ever seen, and you'll understand it without saying a single word if you want to." And I feel like Dark Souls 3 is probably the epitome of, or not, I keep saying epitome, but probably the grandeur of Dark Souls 3 really hooks you in right away. And a lot of power is felt through your guy leveling up, of course. I mean, the character customization thing is also kind of annoying. I wish he just limited it to just like pick a class, you go into the world, you don't have to do anything else. But whatever, that's small. That's not even, it doesn't even play into your gameplay very much. And I feel like the strength of Dark Souls is really that like visceral feeling, that tight feeling of you just trudging through this world to accomplish something. You just don't know what you're accomplishing. Even though you don't know what you're accomplishing, you still do it anyway. Linking the flame is like the most ambiguous thing you could possibly think of, but it feels powerful when you do it. You feel like you have so much weight to this idea that I am linking the flame for another like eternity until someone else comes to kill me or whatever. And it just works. The Sony quote or the Microsoft quote, like everything just works. We're gonna have this in 4K, 4K 60 FPS. Uh, it just works beautifully, and it's so poetic in the way, the music ties into the fight scenes, and you feel like every fight would be your last, sort of like that. But you keep coming back. You keep saying, you know what, I'm gonna beat this guy to the ground. I spent like 3 hours on the Dancer, and the feeling of accomplishment after you complete that is unimaginable. You can't explain that type of feeling. It's not adrenaline. It's not disgust with how long it took you to beat that boss most of the time. I mean, with Dancer, yeah, I felt like, thank God I beat that guy finally. But most of the bosses just feel so fulfilling. And that's something that Breath of the Wild lacks, unfortunately. But you can always just have that. And the difficult. I didn't even mention the difficulty of Dark Souls 3. The difficulty plays such a large role in the Dark Souls 3. It created its entire genre of Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls is an entire genre. Like when people refer to a tough game, they just say, it's pretty comparable to Dark Souls difficulty. Can you believe how stunning that is to me? Or like it's just amazing to think that a single game can define an entire genre, and that's kind of an amazing part of Dark Souls. Let me drink some more water. I mean, we've been going on for almost 50 minutes. Next, Nier Automata. Play this game. The gameplay is elegant and fluid, with a lot of set pieces like combat and the entertainment of killing enemies feeling nice. It just feels really nice to play. And like, I mean, people probably rag on the character design a little bit for being a little bit too appealing to the male eye, but it's just good enough for you to be like, damn, this is a fun game to play, and I really enjoy like how much weight my actions have to certain fights. The fights feel really good, and there's a lot for your hands to do. You're just moving all over the place. You're jumping, you're swerving, you're shooting, you're swinging your sword. You're doing a lot of stuff in a lot of different ways, and I really like how well that integrates into gameplay. But god damn, this story is abysmal. It's so ugly. Um, you just don't care about anything that's happening. It's garbage, trite. I don't want to ever see a single cutscene because it's ugly, so disgusting to even listen to them talk. Like, I mean, the voice acting is like mediocre. I played on the English dub, but you know, it's hard to take the game seriously when the story is just just such a disconnect from like how powerful a lot of the scenes feel. Like you're one moment you're fighting this massive boss with a bunch of spunk and a bunch of lights going crazy all over the place. I remember the one fight at the amusement park that was crazy, and then they start talking, and then you want to kill yourself because uh, it. I mean, I think you get what I'm saying here. Like, although I'm not a story guy, there should be at least a baseline story you should be, at least conceiving. Like, it can be the scummiest plot ever. Like, we're here to save the world with the power of friendship. Like, I'll yawn at that, but it's not like it's gonna be. I'm gonna say, wow, that was just abysmal. But this story that I'm given is just 10 times worse than that, and also put in a blender with like some garbage characters as well. Ugh. Like, the importance of a story to an open world game should never be that it's its focus. I think that's where Red Dead Redemption 2 really struggled, and I think that's where a lot of games try to find the balance between it. But this game just doesn't strike that even close to the correct balance. It's farther away in terms of narrative cohesion, because it feels like how do I explain this? Nier Automata just doesn't know where it's going. It just doesn't know what it's trying to say. Like, it doesn't try to say anything bold. Doesn't try to say anything childish. It just doesn't say anything with the amount of gameplay you have. Like, I feel like they should have went for this type of story that it kind of goes for a redemption arc, or like something like poetic or beautiful. But they just don't have anything. They just put a bunch of lines everywhere, and you can't follow anything because everything looks like they came straight out of Dragon Ball Z. Especially those twins. That was by far the stupidest fight I've ever had in a game in a long time. The fight with the twins. Lord have mercy for whoever designed those twins, by the way. Their characters are just ugly, and they talk ugly too. Holy, I've been almost rambling for an hour. Guess we wrap it up here. I mean, you probably understand what I'm getting at here, but I am quite infuriated with a lot of open world games, and two good two good measures, I would say. There is, you know, the alternative is really just like, I don't know if there's an alternative to what modern games should really strive for these days. Like, I highlight a lot of points here, but I don't provide a lot of solutions. Maybe, I mean, maybe you can think of a solution yourself. I'm mostly ranting about my criticisms of the open world formula, but I don't really provide a lot of solutions to it, which is where I think it's open to interpretation what solutions should be, because discussion on this matter is always appreciated, right? And yeah, I think that should conclude my almost hour-long rant about the open world games. Jesus. I am pretty much the coolest cat on the block when it comes to games. Cap. I mean, do I know what I'm talking about when it comes to games? Partially, I think. Do I know what I'm talking about when it comes to anime? I also would say partially. So when you try to combat me when I criticize a game. Just know it comes from a place of like uh I don't know how to explain it. It just comes from a place of just disdain and just like I'm tired of just like poor business practices or poor game design. I'm just a tired consumer who wishes for a better industry. And isn't that all you really want to ask for? Shouldn't you really just ask yourself, why don't I have a better industry, and how can I really produce a better industry for the things I like to do? I mean, I play these games for like more than 100 hours, like 100, 200 hours, all combined, all these games. And there's just nothing fulfilling about any of them except for like Minecraft, Breath of the Wild, Dark Souls 3, and like maybe Red Dead. I gave Red Dead like a 5, but that was like an average game. And like actually Skyrim too. Skyrim was like a 7. Um, but yeah, just know that my cynicism is always in good faith that, or in hopes that a better industry will be created. You know, due to the consumer influencing the company to practice better. I don't know how to explain this. I feel like someone's made a good thesis on this, but I just haven't found it. So yeah, thanks for watching.